Well, good morning, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. I wanted to come to you today with a 800 subscribers Q&A video. I had made a call out the last week of October when I hit the 800 subscriber mark and asked for questions, and well, got them printed off and got 4 pages of questions. So I think that's probably enough, and I need to get these videos done. We've been pretty busy at school, and so I just hadn't had time to do it yet, and I apologize for that. But I wanted to share my answers with these questions that were sent in by various people. And so before I get started, I guess I need to definitely thank everyone that helped me get to this point, the 800 subscriber mark. And that was pretty cool. I think I have exceeded expectations with I don't know that my wife ever thought my channel would get this far, but we always have a good laugh about that. Who would want to listen to you? So anyway, I just thank you for subscribing, and even in the last 2 weeks, the subscriber count went up to 870, and so I didn't check this morning if it dropped below that or not, but it was at like 870, and so I've been tickled to death. I must have hit an algorithm or something with the YouTube, but I am happy to be doing these videos. I am happy that you are here to join me, and I hope I can answer these questions the way you like them. Or I guess if you don't like them, it's my answers. So anyway, so the first question on this 800 subscribers Q&A is from Brandon's Bookshelf, and he's a relatively new booktuber. You guys need to go check him out. Brandon's Bookshelf. Last time I checked a few days back, he was at 151 subs, but he puts out excellent content. So go check him out. He says, congrats, 1,000 is right around the corner. Well, Brandon, that would be cool. I'm not going to hold my breath, but that would be cool. So his question was, if you could ever recommend one single book from here on out, what would it be? Okay, so I know what my automatic answer is. I would recommend the Bible, but I'm being a Christian man. That would be what I would recommend for everybody to read. But I do realize that not everybody follows the same religion. So if we stuck with a history topic, how about I do that? We'll stick with a history topic. I would recommend Battle Cry for Freedom by James McPherson, because Civil War is my all-time favorite subject, as you guys are pretty well aware of. And James McPherson, I have yet to find a book that is better than his Battle Cry for Freedom. It is a book that encompasses the entire Civil War time period. It goes from, it's like 1848, right around there, to all the way through Reconstruction. So it hits all those major events in the 1850s that build up to Civil War. It covers the Civil War and then Reconstruction. And I just think that he did an awesome job. And every time somebody asks for a comprehensive history of the Civil War, that is always my go-to book. I always recommend that. And I think that would be the one single book that from here on out that I would recommend. Mark from Book Time with Elvis. Mark's a great guy over there in Europe. He Elvis is his dog. He showed his dog in a video a day or two ago, and very cute dog there, Mark. But Mark recently started a Civil War Voxer group that he put me in with, along with who was it? It was Carrie from Literary Carrie, and Vin from Revenant Reads, and was there one more person? I can't remember if there was one more person, but anyway, that was kind of a fun little surprise. They started talking about Civil War and Halloween stuff and spooky stories, and I was out cleaning the garage listening to all of the messages going back and forth. Mark, I apologize for not adding more into the discussion, but I do appreciate being added into it. So anyway, he says, congratulations, Bill. It's well deserved. My questions are, number one, Which historical site would you most like to visit in the future? Okay, so I can't do just one. All right. So you guys know that I like Civil War. I like American Revolution. So that's really where it's going to be. My answer is going to be settled around. Excuse me. What I really would like to do, I got a father-in-law who lives down south in Texas, and I would really like to talk my wife into making a little bit out of the way trip on the way to Texas next time we go see him. And I'd like to go to the battlefields at Shiloh, and I'd like to go to the battlefields of Vicksburg. And those are my two ones in the West that I really want to hit sometime in the next few years. I've been fascinated by those battles, and I've read a little bit on them. Not a ton, but a little bit, and they always seem to fascinate me. And a few years back, and I say a few, it's been like 7 or 8 years, we went out to Gettysburg out in Pennsylvania, and we were able to walk the battlefield a couple different times, and we spent 3 days in Gettysburg on vacation, and I absolutely fell in love with the place. I would love to go back there and visit again, but I believe, historical site. Oh, this isn't new sites. This is just what would you want to visit. I'd love to visit Gettysburg again. Excuse me. I would love to take James McPherson's On Hallowed Ground, I think is the name of the book, and he does kind of a battlefield walkthrough, a tour of the battlefield in his book, and I'd like to read that book as I go around the battlefield. I think that would be an awesome experience. And then I would also like to travel a little bit further south to Antietam. Or Sharpsburg, and see the battlefields of Antietam. We did not get a chance to do that. I would love to do that. So those are my Civil War places that are on my hit list, so to speak. The Revolutionary War place that I would like to see, there's all kinds of them, first of all. Guess I need to put that out there. There's a lot of them. But I would like to go see Fort Ticonderoga in upstate New York. If not for the fort, just for the scenery. I would love to see upstate New York. It's supposed to be really beautiful. And I like reading about and learning about that whole New York campaign, up and down Lake Champlain and the Hudson River, and the importance of that waterway that kind of split the colonies in half, or in a third, I guess. It made the New England colony separate from the rest of it. And I would like to go, because that was a key battle, even though it was not much of a battle. It was a key victory, and I'd like to go see that. And then on the way, I could go to the Baseball Hall of Fame. So I don't know if that's a historical site, if you would consider that historical site, but it would be to me. It's a shrine. So I'd like to go see the Baseball Hall of Fame while I'm in upstate New York. Let's see. Number 2 question from Mark is, which historical periods would you most like to explore that you haven't already? All right. So as a history teacher, I've explored a little bit of this and a little bit of that all the way through the American history timeline. But there are definitely some areas that I am much more well-read in than other areas. In one area that I tend to, it's not that I skip it, it's just my classes, it doesn't fit in with how I teach the class, because we always run out of time for stuff. And one of the high school classes always hits it. But I would love to get into some more studies of the West, reading about the mining towns, the ghost towns, the importance of the railroad, the fur trade. I'm fascinated by that. I took a college history course on the American West, and those were the 3 items that we hit in that class. Matter of fact, we had to read 3 separate nonfiction books with that class on top of our textbook. And those were the 3 items that it hit, the mining towns, the fur trade, and the railroads. Oh yeah, in the, almost forgot, in the cattle drives. I would love to read up more on that subject. I think it's very fascinating, the growth of the West. There were a lot of positives, a whole lot of negatives, dealing with the indigenous people and stuff. And I just would like to further study that. Yeah. So the next set of questions comes from Summer at Cozy Reading with Quaker Cats. And if you don't know Summer, she's got a lot of cats running around, and they're jumping in videos, and from time to time, it's always fun to watch her video, and she's just a great person. And she says, congratulations, Bill. Question is, what's a book that you're really looking forward to reading by the end of the year? So what I'm really looking forward to, and I'm hoping I'll get these two done by the end of November. That's my goal. I don't know if it's going to happen, but you've seen on my videos and you've seen these on Peg's videos, but we're both reading, excuse me, we're both reading Frederick Douglass's biography by David Blight. And this is an excellent, excellent book. And we're also reading Thomas Jefferson's biography. And I forgot to bring it over. It's sitting over by the chair. But anyway, I am looking forward to getting these finished up. They are leading to a whole lot of other book ideas on stuff I want to read. And, that's always the problem. You get so many books and so little time. But I'm really looking forward to wrapping these up. Right now, I'm making an effort to finish Thomas Jefferson. I'm hoping by the end of the week I'm going to finish that biography so I can really hit this one hard and heavy. And I'm I think maybe a chapter behind, or I'm starting to get a chapter behind in the Douglass biography, but I'm a little bit ahead in the Thomas Jefferson. I just want to get that finished up. It's a faster read than this one is. This is a fast read also, but John Meacham's work flows a whole lot. I don't want to say better. It's just faster reading. And so I think I can get that one done by the end of the week. And then the other one that I'm looking forward to reading is Peg and I are going to do a buddy read, I believe in December, on Robert E. Lee, A Life by Allen Guelzo. And Allen Guelzo is one of my favorite authors. I think he's wonderful. I have never read any biographies, straight up biographies on Lee. I've read history books on certain time periods where they devote a large chunk of the book to Robert E. Lee, but nothing solely on Robert E. Lee. And so I have picked up a couple on the book back here on the bookshelf. I've got a couple different copies of Robert E. Lee books that I would like to, dip into and explore his life just a little bit. There's just many different topics I'd like to look into with him. But I'm really looking forward to that buddy read we're going to be doing. So thank you, Summer, for your question. Elizabeth C., thank you for all your videos and buddy reads. Even though I can't keep up, I'll keep trying. Keep up the great content. There will never be too many videos on Lincoln and American history. Well, thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate that because I have the same opinion. You can never get too much. And her question is, what new to you history topic would you like to explore at the end of the year and into next year? So continuing with, just kind of piggybacking on that last question from Summer. Like I said, I've never read anything. I'm familiar with him, so I guess it's not new to me, but it's new to me as far as reading biographies. I've never read anything up on Robert E. Lee. So that is one. I have got, I don't know if you can see him over here on the shelf heading into next year. I've got Ron Chernow's Grant. I got Ronald C. White's Grant. I got, who is this? William McFeely's Grant. I got some different Grant biographies that I have picked up recently. I got one right here. I got another one down here. But I have not read a whole lot on Ulysses Grant as far as just straight up biographies. And so one of the things I'm really trying to do is get into some of these people's lives that I talk about in class all the time pretty heavily, but yet I have not, read a major biography on them. And so I'm trying to alleviate that. That is kind of my goal for the next couple years, really. Let's see here. Oh, another couple of books that I'm looking forward to getting into this next year. This Field of Blood This is Violence in Congress and the Road to Civil War by Joanne Freeman. I'm aware of one incident, but she reports about a whole lot of incidents in Congress where you got people who are pretty violent. And I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be absolutely wonderful. Another book. Should have got these down. Sorry about that. Another book that I'm looking forward to, and this is going to be a buddy read with Patrice Jones, and that is The Hemmingses of Monticello, An American Family by Annette Gordon Reed. And I've had this book on the shelf for quite a while. I've wanted to read it, and I just haven't got to it. No particular reason, just haven't done it. And it's going to be a chunker. It's almost 700 pages of text. It comes up on that mark. So that's going to be an endeavor, but I think I'm going to really enjoy it. Going to get some new knowledge there. And then I also had gotten a new, and I'm not going to dig it out, but if you saw my last, my Monday video, it was a book haul. There was a book on Napoleon, and I teach about Napoleon in world history, and I need to add to my world history knowledge quite a bit. And so I got that biography on Napoleon, and I would like to either read that one or go upstairs into the upper room and maybe pull one of the biographies I've got up there, because I have a couple more. So I hope that answered your question, Elizabeth. I've got a lot of big plans for the next few months. All right, so the next question is from Linda Schwab. It says, congratulations, Bill. I've been a subscriber since the early days of your channel, and I've read some terrific books because of you. Thank you. Thank you, Linda, for sticking with me for this long. I really appreciate that. I know you leave a lot of comments for me in the comment section, and I'm just glad that I'm able to add to everybody's TBR list, because I know everybody adds to mine. So thank you. So anyway, she says, my question is, have you read any histories of Iowa or histories where Iowa played a role in a historical event? Excuse me. I have not read a history book of Iowa. Well, I take that back. I read an old geography book on Iowa from like the early turn of the century, maybe even been the late 1800s. One of those old textbooks with the Browning pages and stuff like that. And it was pretty interesting. But other than that, I have not read a history of Iowa. I probably should, being a teacher in Iowa. That would... now you're making me feel bad. But anyway, I have read some books where Iowa took a key role in the historical event they were looking at. And so, just some examples of that. I read Stephen Ambrose's book on the Transcontinental Railroad, and I am totally going blank on the name of that. But anyway, of course, the jump-off spot for the Transcontinental Railroad was Council Bluffs. They had to build that bridge over to Omaha, and that was kind of a jump-off spot. So Iowa got mentioned in there. Let's see. John Brown. I've read some books with, excuse me, with John Brown in them. And John Brown, of course, had to escape Kansas, and he wandered into Iowa to find a place to hide from the law. And he stayed with Quaker families throughout Iowa, as he was trying to, free the slaves and, doing his little parts in freeing the slaves. And so he stayed with a lot of abolitionist families in Iowa. And matter of fact, one of those places was Tabor, Iowa. And we go play sports in Tabor against Fremont Mills. And so I'm pretty familiar with that area. I need to get down there, maybe next summer or something, and just go see what little historical markers and stuff are around that area. I've never done that. I've driven through there, but I've never actually stopped and looked, because I know they have a few. Let's see here. Oh, I have a book upstairs. I have not read it yet, but I have a book upstairs that was given to me that talks about Iowans in the Civil War. And of course, Iowa produced the largest, I got to make sure I get this statistic correct. It's not the largest amount of soldiers, but the largest percentage of our available fighting force, the largest percentage of all the states fought from Iowa. I don't know if that makes sense, but guys that were old enough to fight, the percent of them that actually did fight, we have a larger percentage than any other state. I think that's the statistic. We sent a lot of soldiers off in the Civil War, and we've got a lot of Civil War markers around here. Matter of fact, our courthouse has a big old Civil War statue right in the front of it. And then the last book that I read was, or not the last book I read, the last one on my list I'm going to talk about was one of our teachers. He was a little bit older, and his dad fought in World War II, and he was out. He was in the Navy, and he was out in the Pacific. And when he was out there, their ship was hit by kamikazes and all of that kind of stuff. And there were some other Iowa soldiers on that ship. And so that was an interesting story, and it had Iowans, playing a major role in it. So, there's various ways that Iowa fits into the histories. I have not read a history book on just Iowa, though. Probably should. I'll have to add that one to the TBR. All right, so next set of questions from Logan Mortensen. Congrats, Bill. Here are my questions. So, number one, do you find yourself discussing current events with your students a lot, or do you primarily stick with the time period they're studying? Okay, so I do both. I stick with the time period because if I get too far off the beaten trail, I'll never get done with what I need to get done. But as I'm going along, I like to tie in current events, so that the kids can see how there are historical themes that constantly repeat themselves throughout history. And, you talk about presidential elections that are highly contested, and voter fraud, and, voter counts, and just what if it got thrown into the Congress to get voted on, all of those kind of issues, So I'm just thinking, from last year, those have all happened in history before. And so I like to take those current events as we're learning about, different things with the Constitution and the early government and stuff. And I like to tie those in. And that's how I approach it. And I try to keep a even keel, not conservative, not liberal. I just kind of try to walk the middle line so that I can let the kids decide on their own which way they want to go. And, right now there's so much in the news with current events that, especially last year there was a lot of stuff. And so we were able to tie in quite a bit of stuff into our historical timeline. Number two, what historic figure or time period are you interested in learning more about, aside from your current favorites, i.e. Lincoln, Civil War, Revolutionary War? So I'm excited about that Frederick Douglass book that I talked about. Now, that kind of ties in Civil War and slavery and all that, obviously. So I probably shouldn't count that one. But reading this book has spun me off in several different directions. Like we looked up a book on Nat Turner and his rebellion, and I think I'm going to try to get that here soon. And so I've had many different readings from this, but one of them that I'm real excited, and I'm not going to dig it out of the pile there, but if you watch the channel, I recently, when we went to the World War I Museum with the 7th graders, I was in the gift shop and I bought a Max Hastings book, 1914, and it was talking about the beginnings of World War I. And of course, World War I is one of my favorite topics to study. And so, yeah, I bought that, and I can't wait to dive into that. Let's see here. Number 3, since it appears you have a large book collection, how do you manage your inventory? Do you sell or donate a lot of books to keep things manageable, or do you find yourself drowning in books? Asking for a friend. And Logan, I don't donate books. At least when I get doubles, I'll donate a book to my classroom library. I will do that. So like this the Hemmingses of Monticello. I actually have a paperback version of this upstairs, and I found the hardback for like $2. And so I bought the hardback, and when I go back to school, I am going to take that paperback version and stick it on my shelves at school. So I donate a little bit, but not nearly as much as my wife would like to see. I take a lot of pride in my collection, knowing that my collection is fairly extensive for a small collector, because I mean, I'm not a big collector like some, but I still consider myself a small collector because I've heard the book numbers that other people have. But for a small collector, I take a lot of pride in what I do have, because I do have a lot of key titles along the American history historical timeline. So then how do I keep track of and manage my inventory? So I actually, on my computer, I have a Google Doc that has a list of every book that I own, alphabetical by author last name. I have that, and then I also started a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet, that is basically the same thing, but it's got more information in them in it. It tells me whether it's hardback, paperback. I got a spot for I was about to say ISBN numbers. That's not the Dewey Decimal numbers. So because I was at one time, after I read a book, I put it on a different bookshelf once I got it read, and I started putting them in Dewey Decimal order so that they were by topic. And I did start that a long time ago when my upper room was available as a library. But if you remember from the early stages of my channel, me talking about I have a 4-year-old at home, and so 4 years ago I lost my library upstairs. It became another bedroom. And so yeah, my sorting the books out like that now doesn't happen anymore because I don't have that room upstairs. They're all stuffed in the what I call the upper room, and it's basically, it's like an overgrown closet. It's huge. I've got it's a huge closet, and it's got bookshelves that line 2 of the walls. So it's like 3 shelves this way, and then 5 or 6 shelves, maybe 7. I think it's 5 or 6 shelves going the other way. Excuse me. So I keep all my books in there. Now, I used to have them all alphabetical by author, and it's not that way anymore. And I am sad to admit that if I ever get my library back again, I'm going to have to go back through my list and add, like over this last year, I haven't really put them on my list. I have not done very good or very well at keeping track of a lot of my new books that I have acquired. So I don't know if that sounded like a rambling answer to you, but I use Google Docs, Google Spreadsheet, and that's always worked for me. All right, so the next question is from Justin at Triumphal Reads. He does a neat little channel, not little, it's a big channel, but he reads a lot of ancient history as far as history stuff goes. He also likes a lot of nature writing, and so go check his channel out. He says, good job on the milestone. His question is, how about what are your favorite kind of animals? What would your favorite kind of animal be? And what is your favorite part of teaching? And he says he asks this because he says, I became accredited and passed all the praxis, but never decided to go down that route. All right, so we'll start with the first part of this. My favorite kind of animal is a dog. I love dogs. I love pretty much all dogs. My dog Clover's sitting right down here on the floor beside me, and she does that most mornings when I film. She's just adorable. She always loves me, and I'm always, loving on her. And I can't imagine what life will be like when, in a few years, when that time comes. That's not going to be fun. But she's wonderful. I love dogs, so I'm a dog person. Sorry, Summer. I know you're a cat person. I am not a cat person. Anyway, he says the second part was, what's your favorite part of teaching? My favorite part of teaching, I got several different things. Just being with the kids, interacting with the kids. I absolutely love it. It keeps me feeling young, and I get paid to do what I like to do. And anybody who has a job like that will understand that answer. I get paid to understand history and teach history, and get kids that come into my classroom who, they really, a lot of times when they come in from elementary, they just don't like history. And by the time they leave my room, they either really like it or they have an appreciation for it. And I feel that's one of my big jobs, is to open up that avenue for them to read and learn. And we all need to learn from our past. So I love being able to do that. I also love being able to still coach. So I coach a lot. I coach middle school football, middle school boys basketball, middle school girls track, and high school boys baseball in the summer. And so I'm a full-time coach. It takes a lot of my time, but I absolutely love sports. I always have loved sports. I'm a teacher first, but definitely sports is right behind that. And so I'm able to do all those things I love. And I enjoy going to work. I don't even call it work. I enjoy going to school. I love being with the kids. So that's why I became a teacher. And that's my favorite part of teaching. That was your question. Next question is from Shelly Swearigan. She has a nice little channel where she likes kids' books. Her current goal right now is reading through there's a book that has 1,001 kids' books that you need to read before you become an adult or something like that. I know I'm probably getting the title wrong, but you get the gist. And so she's been going through all of them. She's got, I want to say, a library background, if I remember right. And she just runs a nice little channel over there. Go check her out. She says, "Congrats, Bill. Well deserved. You run a wonderful channel." Well, thank you, Shelly. You do as well. Says, "What's your favorite snack?" Now, I love to eat. And I like snacking on Cheez-Its. I keep a box of Cheez-Its at school. And, if the kids get to working on something and I'm hungry, I start eating a little bit. I'm a terrible snacker. But probably one of my all-time favorite snacks is summer sausage and cheese. Cutting up a slice of sausage and then slicing off that cheese and just sitting on the couch and eating it. It's a bad habit. And it's gotten kind of expensive. I probably haven't done that in a 3 years. Yeah, I think we get it around Christmas time, but not like in the off season, so to speak. She says, "Do you have a favorite children's book? If so, what is it?" So growing up, I really liked The Ugly Duckling. I have a couple of copies, and I shared those with you in a previous video, a couple videos back on books from my childhood. But I always loved The Ugly Duckling, and I had 2 copies of that. So when I was a kid, that was one of my favorite books. Right now, my favorite books would probably be Dr. Seuss books. Reading Dr. Seuss books, like the rhyme and rhythm of everything, has allowed me to connect with my daughters. They love those books. So like The Cat in the Hat Comes Back, The Foot Book, Fox and Socks, is that the right? No, that's not one of them we have upstairs. I've read that one, but there's a handful of them that we have upstairs that we read all the time, and they absolutely love it. Green Eggs and Ham, that's another one. Those are some favorites, and not just my favorites, but I think they're my kids' favorites. All right, so next set of questions is from Teacup the Storyteller, and it says, "Congratulations." And the question is, and thank you, the question is, what is the most special book you read this year, and why was it special to you? Wow. I went back to the list, and I'm going to be somewhere, am I going to be at like 70 books, 75 books by the end of the year, I think is the pace I'm going at. And I think excuse me, I'm at like 62 right now, I think. Anyway, I've read a lot of good books, and some ones that came to mind. I read Of Mice and Men. I absolutely love that book, one of my all-time favorites. Lincoln at Cooper Union by Harold Holzer, loved it. Wait Till Next Year, which was a memoir by Doris Kearns Goodwin. I loved it. It was really good. I read Our Team, which is about the Cleveland Indians when they won the World Series back in the 50s. Love that. And there were several others I just really liked. But I think The Great Alone, that was a good fictional book. That introduced me to Kristen Hanna's writing. So I read a lot of good books this year, but I am going to go with maybe not one book, but all of the buddy reads that I have done. I have done a lot of buddy reads this year, and they have been special to me because not only do I really enjoy the books that we're reading, but those buddy reads, just the interaction with other booktubers, that is everything and more of what I wanted from BookTube, and I have loved it. And I have never been turned down on a book read or a buddy read. If I'm late coming into the group, it's been open arms, and they've let me come in. And I'm not going to try to. I was going to write down everybody that I had buddy readed and all the books, but the list, there was quite a few we did this year. And I buddy read with quite a few people, and I don't want to leave anybody off the list. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. So the most special books have been those ones I've probably been those ones I've buddy read this year. So just because I have this one handy, Frederick Douglass. That's been a special book for me. I've wanted to read more on Douglass for a long, long time. I've been reading his autobiography in class, and I'm just getting to see the special life that he led. He was such an amazing historical character in the American timeline, and so that's been wonderful. Let's see here. Next question is from Erica at Passage of Time, and Erica runs a great channel over there. She likes like archaeology and I can't think of the right term, caveman type stuff. I'm sorry, Erica, I can't remember the term right off the top of my head. But anyway, paleontology. No, is that dinosaurs? I think that's dinosaurs. Well, anyway, you get the idea. She likes really, really old stuff, and that's been wonderful listening to her channel. And she likes to read about the kings and queens of England. So if you are looking for some book ideas on any of those topics, go to her channel. Go check that out. She says, "Congratulations, Bill. You deserve it. What sparked your interest in the Civil War?" This is a tough question. You would not think it would be tough, but it is. I have thought and tried to think of why the Civil War, and I can't come up with something. I know I love it. I love learning about it. It just constantly sparks my interest, but I don't know where it started. My best answer for this would be 16 years ago when I came to teach at my current school. When I first started teaching, 18 years ago, I taught high school, and so I taught recent American history. And I loved World War I. That was my historical event. And so my collection of books, and I love the civil rights movement too. That was always interesting for me. And so my books that I started collecting as a teacher were in those two areas. But I only taught there for 2 years. And then I moved here to Iowa. And now I teach, instead of high school on a full-time basis, I teach middle school. I do have one high school class, but the bulk of my day is with middle school kids, 6 classes of middle school every day. And at our school, we had a cross-curricular unit over the Civil War. So if you're not familiar with that jargon, that would be language arts did a Civil War unit where all of their stuff they read and studied was all Civil War. Of course, my class in social studies was doing Civil War. Science was looking at like medicine and stuff like diseases and stuff like that from the Civil War. Math would do, some tie-ins with death tolls and that kind of stuff, and they would tie in Civil War. So everybody was working the Civil War, and it was kind of our baby. It was a special unit to our entire middle school, and I feel anyway that I got right on board with that, and I have loved it ever since. And of course, my book collection has grown massive on Civil War topics. So, like I said, if I had not moved here, my book collection would still be massive, but it would be probably civil rights and World War I stuff. That would be the bulk of the books. Next set of questions is from the Bookish Bryants. So he says, "Hi, Bill. Congratulations on the much-deserved milestone." And so Scott's over there, Scott and Becky over at the Bookish Bryants. And they're doing, if you guys like science fiction, you need to go check their channel out. They're doing a whole, New Worlds November, where they're reading science fiction all month. A lot of it's shorter books, shorter stories. But I know I was watching one this morning, and Scott read 8 books this last week. I'm like, holy cow, that's a lot of books. But they've been doing a wonderful job. There's a whole bunch of people involved in that, but it was kind of their brainchild. And just like the message that I left on their video this morning, I just basically told them, you guys know me, I'm a history reader. I don't read science fiction, but you guys do such a good job, and you have so much enthusiasm, just like all of the people who are involved in New Worlds November. You guys do such a nice job that it sparks my interest. I love listening to you guys. So anyway, let's get to his questions here. He says, "We know you read a lot of books on American history. My question is, which authors do you trust the most?" Excuse me. "Whose given information do you feel is the best studied, curated, and the most trustworthy?" So if we're going to stick with my two bread and butter topics, with the Civil War, I trust anything coming from Harold Holzer. He is waist deep in Lincoln paraphernalia. Everything Lincoln, it goes through Holzer. He has a lot to do with the Lincoln collections around the United States, and he's just extremely well read, and I've never gone wrong reading his books. And if you check out his sources in the back, they're always pretty heavily annotated. And so yeah, I trust him. I trust James McPherson with just the Civil War in general. He's been in the game long enough, and he's written enough books. And I know, he teaches at Princeton, I believe, or he used to anyway. I'm assuming he still does. But he's done battlefield tours. He's written books on Gettysburg, Antietam, the Civil War altogether, on Lincoln, he's just all kinds of them. And if you ever look at his bibliography section and his sources, it's always very extensive. And then if you go to the American Revolution, my other bread and butter topic, I have always trusted Gordon Wood and Joseph Ellis. They write a lot of books. They are, if you again look at their sources, they are very heavily involved in the documents. They're living with these historical characters, and it shows. Their writing is really good, and not only they tell a good story, but they use the stuff from the time period to help. And then if you go back another step, Bernard Bailyn, more colonial history, but he's like, I call him, when I talk to the kids about famous historians, I always call him the godfather of colonial history, because it seems like all of the people have written books and have taught under people who learned from Bailyn. They're like the grandkids of Bailyn, basically. And if you ever look at those, I tend to try to pay attention to when they did their doctoral stuff or their master stuff, who were they learning under? Who was their teachers? And then who were their teachers? And Bailyn's always, in a lot of cases up there at the top. And so I trust him. And there are a whole lot of other authors I could put on this list. It could be a pretty extensive list if you're ever wanting that. His other question says, one more question. American history throughout time has been presented rife with inaccuracies. But do you think our history, i.e. the Revolutionary War, is presented more accurately now? Excuse me. Do authors have better sources than in decades past? I believe they do, but you as a teacher have more of an understanding of that. Thank you, Bill. Congratulations. So my answer to this is yes. I think that in today's world, the accounts that are being written up are better. I don't know that they have better sources. They just have more sources. That they are including a whole lot more other people's in the story. It isn't just a very one-sided affair. You've got lots and lots of different. So I'm thinking of, when you tell the story, like the slave narratives that are being included in the last 40 years or so, the slave narratives that are being included in the American story. I think of, I'm reading that Thomas Jefferson book, and Thomas Jefferson, his story totally changed because a lot of people denied his relationship with Sally Hemings. They said it was just people making up stuff. And, you talk about some hardcore evidence. They did DNA evidence and proved that he had a relationship with Sally Hemings, and there were several children from him. And so that totally changed the history books. It changed the biographies. It changed how we looked at stuff. And so I guess the short answer, go back to your question here, make sure I'm answering. Do you think history is presented more accurately now? Yes, I do. I think that historians, and the ones that I read anyway, have been pretty open to including those stories. I know when Joseph Ellis wrote his book on Thomas Jefferson, what was it called? The Sage, was it the Sage? Monticello? Or is that the John Adams book? I'm going blank. Anyway, his big book that he did on Thomas Jefferson several years back, when he finished that book was right when that DNA evidence came out. And he included I think it was an epilogue, it was at the end of the book, he included a whole nother addition to the original manuscript, or the original book, that included that DNA evidence. And he talked about, changing the story and everything. And I really appreciate Ellis for including that. And I think most historians have been very open to including new evidence that is presented. And this will be the last question for part 1 of the 800 subs video. This is from Elizabeth Murphy. And Elizabeth says, "Congrats, Bill." And her questions are, "I know you're a teacher of history. Is that in a public or private school?" Elizabeth, I teach in a public school. We're a rural school that includes a whole lot of communities in our county, but we are a public school. "Are you able to gear your students toward good literature as part of their history studies?" Yes, I am able to do that. And I have quite a bit of freedom in my teaching. So if I find something that I want to include and tie it all into the curriculum, as long as it goes with, I can get it into the curriculum, I do that. And my language arts teachers that I work with, the two that I have in the middle school that I work with, they do an excellent job of bringing in literature that goes with what I'm teaching in social studies. We do a lot of cross-curricular stuff. We do it for World War I, World War II, the Holocaust, civil rights, the American Revolution, the Civil War. We do it in all kinds of different topics throughout American history, and they design their entire language arts curriculum around that, and it's really cool. We do a really good job at my school of working together. And then on top of that, when I come up with new books that I find, I put them on my classroom library shelf. I want the kids to be exposed to all sorts of books as far as history goes. I put upper elementary ones on there because some of them are just they can't read the upper end stuff, so I put some upper elementary in there. I put middle grade books in there. I put high school level books, and then I put some of my I told you on the Hemingses of Monticello, because I do have some advanced readers, and I'm going to put that paperback in my classroom. And I have several different books that I've picked up a double, like I've gotten the hardback, so I put the paperback at school because I want them to have the opportunity to dig into that, if they choose to. So, and the kids give me a hard time about my classroom library. There's quite a few books in it, but I think they understand that I do it because I want to make them better readers. And then, let's see here. Also, are your wife and kids as involved in reading as you are? And do you enjoy the same genres? Okay, so we'll start with my wife. No, she's not. She reads. She's a very fast reader. I know she tells me she wishes she could sit down, but it's not her thing. And I'm okay with that. That does not bother me. She likes to read magazines. She reads a lot of stuff online. So it's not that she's not reading. It's just in a different medium. She does not read history. She does not like, or I don't know if she doesn't like it. She just doesn't read it. And then my two daughters, my oldest daughter, she does read, not nearly as much as me. And throughout different times in her life, she reads more than others. Just kind of depends on what's going on. I don't know that she's got a whole lot going on right now. I don't even know what her pacing is, like how many books per month, or if she even gets one in per month. I don't know. She just got out on her own, and so I don't want to bug her too much about that. And then my youngest daughter, she is learning her letters and their sounds, and I think she's going to be reading before the end of the school year. She is picking up stuff left and right and just going with it, and she loves books. I think she will be, I don't know if she'll read as much as me, but I think she's going to read a pretty good amount. And she loves to recognize things with George Washington or Abraham Lincoln, and she recognizes, she picks up on stuff because she knows I read that, and so I don't know. She might read some of that when she gets older. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. And then last question: what genre is beyond your comfort zone, and how do you push that limit? Okay, the genre I hate the most is self-help books. Can't stand them. I just kind of put a note to myself, can't stand them because there is no magic recipe that fixes everybody, that works for everybody. And a lot of the self-help books, that is how they are presented. They're like, here's what's going to fix your life, change your life. And it's like, it's not for everybody. It might help a couple, but I don't like self-help books. Never have, never will, or I don't think I will anyway. And my way of pushing that limit is by not going near the limit. I don't read them. I just don't. I get people who recommend them to me, and I just don't read them. Can't. I don't know. I feel that in a lot of cases it's almost a get-rich-quick scheme. So there you go. Thank you, Elizabeth, for your question. So again, BookTube. 800 subscribers, sitting at somewhere around 870 right now. I was pretty happy with that. Thank you for sending in all these questions. This will be part one of this series of 800 subs Q&A. I will do the next one so there'll just be two parts to this. And sorry it ran so long. I hope you stayed with me. Thank you for all of your support of my channel. I truly appreciate it. So yeah, I'll come back on Friday with part two. So until next time, BookTube, happy reading.